I definitely will be the only male in the country with an Olympic football gold medal, a World Cup winners medal, a European winners medal, and a Toulon tournament winners medal. How good is that?
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Which I'm really proud of, as you can tell.
Yeah.
But how lucky.
That's unbelievable. Today's guest on the podcast was involved in the development of players like Steven Gerrard, Wayne Rooney and Ross Barkley. He was an academy manager at Everton, worked with England at national level and won all sorts of trophies and awards, and became a director of football at Plymouth Argyle. Today I'm speaking to Neil Dewsnip. Neil, thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to this, I'll be honest. Looking forward to this. Your early life, your early sort of football memory, how did you get into it, and what do you sort of remember? Was it your dad pushing you, or was it your mates?
All of those things, I think. So my dad was always involved in football, and can you believe ended up working for Liverpool with Shankly and that lot.
Wow.
But my kind of first experience of the Liverpool-Everton thing would be being taken to Goodison by my uncle on my mum's side.
Right.
And that's it, isn't it? It's simple.
You're hooked.
So the first game, I'm pretty sure was Burnley. I think Alan Ball missed a penalty, he hit the post and then tapped it in, and the crowd go wild. And I knew, even like as a 6-year-old, it's got to go out the box. It won't be allowed. So I kind of remember that. And that was it. I sat in the Gladys Street up above. It was something special. Still is. Still is special.
What about playing? What's your sort of early? School team. Yeah.
Played Bleak Hill, Connor Cody's school. I was before him, obviously. I'm a bit older. Went there, played at school, played at Rainford High School, played as we had to play for St Helens boys back in the day. And then Merseyside, played with Tommy Caton, God rest his soul. Who was outstanding.
He was.
Probably the best player I think I would have played with in that era. So it was great. We used to come into Liverpool in the block fixtures every Saturday morning, every Wednesday afternoon, and get booted to death. But it was good fun.
Toughened you up. Did they see your dad was at Liverpool as a youth player as well? So
not as a player, as a coach.
Oh, as a coach, sorry. So we had.
He was a teacher as well. So
right.
We taught at Prescott Grammar.
Right. Yeah.
So I used to go as a little kid, having played my game first thing in the morning, then go and watch Prescott Grammar play Dillasell and SFX. Little did I know that one day I'd be taking teams against all those schools.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was the ambition, I suppose, for every young player, was the ambition to be a footballer?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And I trained, obviously with my dad being at Liverpool, I trained at Liverpool.
Yeah.
But he was clever. He knew. Technically, I was outstanding, very good. But he knew I wasn't tough enough, would be the truth of it.
Right.
And he guided me, without ever telling me, he guided me that being a PE teacher might be a really good career. And there you go.
He must have been very convincing if he's pushing you away from that. But
he was a clever man, yeah.
Was he, yeah. Do you think, just on that, you talk about like technical ability and stuff, the way football is now, do you think you would have had because we're talking about a time. Well, that's what I mean. We're talking about a time when it really you had to be physically tough, didn't you? And what defenders and could get away with, they can't now. Do you think it would have made any difference?
Yeah, it would have done, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So if there was no tackling, like in the games at Belfield with the staff, I was okay there.
Yeah.
It was different.
Just
a different time.
Absolutely, yeah. How do you move from, or how do you change track then from, in your mind, of I want to be a footballer to I want to actually go in and teach kids at school?
Well, being a PE teacher is probably the second best thing, really.
Yeah.
You get to play footy every day with the kids, and you get to take your school teams. One of my role models would have been my old PE teacher at school, a guy called Ken Roberts, and then I came across a fella called Alex Gibson, who later went from being a teacher at Rainford High School to being Manchester City's youth coach. So they were good competitive games, as you can imagine, later on. So it kind of was easy, really.
Right,
Would I have wanted to be a player? Yeah, like everybody else in the world. Why would you not?
Yeah, absolutely. Was it your first job at New Age? You go to Leeds Carnegie, was it?
Yeah.
Is that where you went and studied?
Yeah, went to Leeds Carnegie PE College. Had a massive impression on me.
Yeah.
In terms of things like standards, discipline, all the things that Colin Harvey reinforced when I landed at Everton one day.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. Taught me loads. Taught me values and lessons that I think I probably still live by today. And yeah, set me up nicely to go into the teaching and coaching world.
As I noticed when Wikipedia's brilliant, isn't it? When you're looking at certain things, but new age people, Jim Bentley, who ends up being a manager. James was he James then?
Me.
Yeah. There you go. And Carl Robinson also. It was new age. And I mentioned you before. I'd done my work experience with you as a 15-year-old all those years ago.
Your name doesn't quite fit with
it's not. No, it's not. I haven't done quite as well as them two. But obviously, the school team and seeing kids like that who are obviously into football, but then moving on to Cardinal Heenan and Steven Gerrard being someone who is he. What was he like then? What was Steven Gerrard like as a kid? Could you see sort of straight away he had something or?
Well, let me go back to New Age.
Yeah.
So you mentioned James as I referred
James,
to him, and Carl, and we'll throw Stephen into the same pot if you like, and not forgetting Stephen Schumacher as well. They all are really, really good people. They're all incredibly infatuated by football. Football crazy. One of them was a bit better than the others, I guess. But they were all good at football, and they've all turned out, I guess, to be decent managers. Different levels, but decent all the same. And the really nice thing is I'm still in touch with all of them. So the phone goes, whether that's from Bahrain or whether it's from around the corner in Kirby, whatever. But it's really nice that they stay in touch.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, isn't it? And obviously, I mean, can you see something? The teaching at that time, that grounding. Do you think that? I want to stay on the school stuff for a little bit, but did that help you then? Obviously, when you went into Everton's academy and obviously with England, having that grounding of working with those young people and seeing how
without a shadow of a doubt. So a number of things really. The first one would be you see someone who's as talented as, let's say, Steven Gerrard. You think kind of everyone's the same, and you realise quickly that no, they're not. And of course, when I went to Everton, not too long after Heenan, there's Wayne as well. And again, you look back and think, I was incredibly spoilt, wasn't I? To come across two incredible young talents at 11, 12 years of age. And it's a high bar for everybody else to follow.
Just a little bit.
So that was good. But the teaching thing taught me, and something Kevin Sheedy said to me one day. So Sheeds, obviously, who's a really good friend, said, Neil, I've played all these games and done this and done that for Everton and the Republic of Ireland. He said, but you're miles ahead as a coach because you've taught a million lessons to kids. You've taught or coached a million sessions. He said, and I'm playing catch up as a coach. And I'd never thought of it like that before. Gary Ablett would say the same. So I think not playing, ironically, gave me a head start in the coaching.
In the coaching. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it, when you look at it like that, obviously, because you think playing. And I guess you will have seen this numerous times throughout your career. Playing doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be... And not because they maybe haven't got the ability to be good coaches, but we've seen lots of examples, haven't we? And that's right at the very top where unbelievable footballers just can't quite convey their... We've seen like Roy Keane is one, isn't he? Roy Keane's an unbelievable character, funny pundit, brilliant pundit, but his managerial career hasn't quite gone the way maybe you think it may have done. And at one time at Sunderland looked like he was going to go that way, but he's been quoted as being frustrated because they can't do them kind of things. And you see this with really supremely talented footballers who I think there was one about Glenn Hoddle years ago who was actually a really good coach, but people used to say he'd get frustrated. Ruud Gullit was another one because players he's coaching can't do the things he found so easy to do. Have you come across that in your career?
I've never had that problem.
He said you were technically gifted.
Technically okay.
Yeah.
But it is, there's a lot of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And you'd have to ask really those fantastically talented players That must be an emotional challenge. Why can't they do? This is easy. And yet, it's not, is it? So,
No, just thinking that because of Kevin Sheedy, because obviously he was unbelievable, wasn't he, in all them games, but
pretty good.
then trying to coach, you're trying to like fast forward, but you've already got all of these lessons, because obviously working with the whole person, isn't it, as a teacher, it's not turning up and coaching kids for 2 hours a day or whatever is one thing, but you're seeing them in very different environments in school, aren't you?
Yeah, and in different subjects, of course.
Yeah.
Not just PE. So yeah, it was a great upbringing.
Yeah.
I think the kids at New Hayes probably taught me more than I taught them.
Okay.
It was a great grounding, yeah, really good.
So why was Cardinal Heenan, we were just talking before we started, weren't we? Why was Cardinal Heenan such a good grounding place then for lots of talent? You've mentioned Steven Gerrard, Steven Schumacher, you know, it was a school when I was growing up that had a really good reputation of footballers as well.
So a couple of things. One would be, there was 200 boys in every year. So to get 11 decent players out of 200 gives you a chance.
Yeah.
It's right kind of geographically in the middle of the city. So everybody could kind of get access to it.
Yeah.
And then there was a head teacher there at the time, John Gibbons, lovely, lovely gentleman, he was a Red, but passionate about his football teams, wanted them to succeed. So we probably bent the rules a little to access one or two people who maybe shouldn't have quite crept into the catchment area, who did. Steven Gerrard and Steven Schumacher being two examples of that. So that was probably why.
What did you... All right, let's talk about Steven Gerrard, because he is, for me, with Wayne Rooney, you know, the two... Certainly in my lifetime, two of the best footballers to come out of this area, absolutely. Rooney being the most talented.
Not just this area, you know.
But,
in their time, they would have been two of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
You would argue when Wayne does Euro 2004.
Oh, God, yeah.
You could argue that's before Messi and Ronaldo have taken off, really. He'd be with Zidane right up there, as good as anybody. And Steven the same, obviously slightly, just a little later maybe, but all the same, right up the top. So not only in our area, and as I said earlier, to have seen those two at 10, 11, 12 years of age, I was spoilt, wasn't I?
So
amazingly.
We will come on to Wayne, because you know, I love talking about Wayne Rooney because you've obviously witnessed it all. But Steven Gerrard, then how soon did you think, he's not bad?
Two things jumped out. One was how he kind of struck the ball.
Yeah.
His technique when shooting or passing over distance was what you saw at the very top of the game. Nice. He just got bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
But his technique was amazing.
Yeah.
And the second thing was the tenacity that he tackled people.
Right.
That also just got bigger and stronger. That was in there right from the word go. They had plenty of other qualities, obviously.
Yeah.
But they were the two that really jumped out.
It's mad, isn't it, to see? I've heard them talking about it in the past of getting on, you know, he just wanted to win every game, even at 7 and 8, and he was like, his dad would be saying, calm down a little bit, but he was wound up and ready to go. And you see that through his career, obviously driving Liverpool on when, you know, he was probably by far the best. He didn't have as good a team as they've got now, and he'd drive them onto things that maybe they shouldn't have achieved at times, but his talent, you know, putting them on the back and all that. And I wonder if that born out of places like Cardinal Heenan.
I think probably before he gets to Heenan, probably, you know, in the road where he grew up, which has had quite a number of players coming out of that area. And so culture's massive.
Yeah.
Absolutely massive in people's development. So it wouldn't be abnormal. That would have been some five-a-side game in his road. People like him and Tony Hibbert and Joey Barton and many others.
Hotbed, doesn't it? Hotbed.
Yeah.
Do you think that, and again, this is probably just sort of a societal thing now. Obviously, years ago, you would play in the road or you go out with your mates. Now, obviously, we all become parents and you hear more and more stories, so you're more cautious now about, obviously, your children going and doing all that. But do you think because of the way it was then, it obviously isn't the same now, we're not producing the same sort of... There's still incredibly talented footballers. It's just done slightly differently, isn't it? But do you think we've lost something? Have you seen that through your career? There's been a bit of a change?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you?
But again, if we had the generation before me in the room, they'd say it changed before then.
Right, okay.
So I think it's a generational thing where we all look back and say it was better,
Yeah.
Well, it was just different.
Yeah.
And it's different again.
Yeah.
So I don't see as many kids playing like we used to do on the field, 18 aside. I don't see that.
No.
But then there's a million more cars knocking around. There's other activities to do.
Yeah. That's a big one, isn't it? There's other activities, isn't it?
We live in a world where health and safety is an interesting concept.
Yeah.
We live in an environment whereby I think the media lets us know about the not nice things that's out there as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So as parents, quite rightly, you guarded a little bit more maybe than what past generations have been. And that has had, a negative effect on the number of talented footballers that's being produced.
Yeah, because there's definitely a little bit more, it feels like there's a little bit more a robotic nature, if you like, and I think that's just natural the way it is, because you coach with that.
I know we're talking about Steven, but Wayne and all the names we're going to talk about will have come through the scenario that I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now the next generation of players is all coming through academies.
Yeah.
And that means they're coached all the time. So does that mean that they are less instinctive? Yeah, probably. There's something in that. Yeah,
we will come on. So I've got that. That's one of the things I do want to discuss, academies. So obviously doing really well at Cardinal Heenan, producing, you've mentioned, Steven Schumacher, who is the Bolton Wanderers manager at the moment, and
yes,
doing well and has done brilliantly in his career so far. How did Everton come about then, the Everton Academy?
So back to my dad, he also used to do some part-time work for the Football Association.
Nice,
so he coached coaches. So there was an award called the Preliminary Award, which was like the first award, prelim badge as we called it. So my dad did a lot of courses. Ray Hall was part of that little coaching fraternity. So Ray asked me if I would do some part-time work at Everton. He took over from, I think Graham Smith.
Yeah.
And he needed people to support him. There was starting to be an expansion of the number of young players that were going into the clubs.
Yeah.
So he grabbed me. So I guess I was a young PE teacher doing okay, developing a little bit of a reputation in the city. And so he asked me to go. So I think people like Michael Branch would have been knocking around when I started, only part-time. And that led then really into Ray creating an opportunity, which was, I think in theory, about being the community officer. But really what Ray wanted was me to be full-time working with all the young players. So that's kind of how it developed. And we kind of went from there.
Was it a difficult decision to leave teaching then? Because obviously you're going to be a footballer, you want to be a footballer. You make that career change to be a PE teacher and doing really well. Obviously building a reputation about coaching as well. And then you get Ray Hall saying, leave that and come and have a go at this. Was it a difficult decision to make?
No. Dead easy.
Okay.
So I'm quite cautious really as a person. And staying in the teaching profession would have been probably the right thing to do. But equally, as well as being cautious, I dream a little bit as well. So to have an opportunity to work full-time in football, to work for Everton, was like, oh yeah, come on, let's have a go.
Let's do it.
So yeah, it was easy.
So how quickly did you develop when you've gone in there then? If it's billed as a community role, but you're going to go in and be coaching, how quickly did that change and what? So did you change? So
I did the community role for a year.
Right.
So that split the two gaps, one at New Hayes, one at Heenan.
Okay.
So, and then I got asked to apply for a full-time job with the Football Association. So I was actually appointed, you'll have heard of a guy called Charles Hughes.
Yeah.
Right. So I was Charles Hughes' last ever appointment for the FA. So I was going to go and be the North East, based in I think, Harrogate or Knaresborough regional coach, which would have been about developing future coaches in the game.
Right.
So there was 5 areas, and the North East was one. So I was going there. Then Charles Hughes resigns. Howard Wilkinson comes in as the technical director. Rings me up and he says, I believe you're about to move over to Yorkshire. I said, yeah. He said, don't. Which was code for, I'm going to change everything and you're not part of the plans.
Wow.
But he said, look, he said, don't go over there. He said, but do you fancy doing a year at the national school? So the national school was based at Lilleshall.
Yeah.
So I went there to be one of the coaches under a lovely gentleman called Keith Blunt. It was, again, another influence on me. And I was given a group. I was given the junior group. So the junior group would be what people now would call year 10 at school.
Yeah.
So these were the best players in the country. So in my group was Joe Cole, was, who else? Chris McCready, who had a great career at Crewe and Tranmere and so on. Leon Mike was Man City, Danny Webber, Man United, and so on. But Joe Cole was obviously the big star.
Yeah.
In the year above was Francis Jeffers. Oh, Peter Clark was, sorry, should it go mad? Peter Clark, I saw him the other night at Warrington, actually. Peter was in my group as well.
Yeah.
So these were all, I think the national school, so John Ebrell would have gone in the very early stages.
He was early, yeah.
10 years on, they'd really got to grips with identifying and recruiting the best talent. So really pretty much all the best players in the country at that age and that time were in these 2 groups.
Yeah.
So again, going back to my kind of growing up and developing as a young coach, I'm surrounded by all the best talent. So when I then move on to Everton, and the reason I moved to Everton was the academies were just starting up. So Ray comes back to me and he says, we're going to need someone to be in charge full-time of all the schoolboy players.
Okay.
Do you want the job? Well, I know that Howard Wilkinson is saying thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
So, of course, it was, yeah. So I negotiated a nice little leaving package in the morning with the FA and turned up at Belfield in the afternoon ready to start. So, I need to thank Ray, obviously, for the full-time opportunity. So I started in charge of the schoolboys.
Yeah.
And Colin had come back as the youth coach. So we started together as the 2 main academy coaches. And I always remember he said to me, Neil, you tell them you teach them how to kick it, I'll teach them the rest. And we kind of worked on that basis.
Wow. So how did you find that then, going from obviously the national level back into Everton and starting something new? Really, it was in its infancy, wasn't it?
It was in its infancy, but it was really exciting.
Yeah.
And all the clubs, and again, you'll appreciate in our area in the Northwest, United, City, Liverpool, Everton, the competition to get the best players was fierce.
Yeah.
Fierce. I remember being in a conversation with Colin and Ray, and we knew that in years gone by, blues such as Steve McManaman, Robbie, Michael Owen, Jamie, had all gone to the red side.
Yeah.
And us kind of making a pact that was it. There was going to be no more. That was our aim in life. No more blues end up over there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because I really don't know the evidence, but I'm pretty sure for a long time after that there wasn't any really. So we managed to recruit the blues.
Yeah.
And we tried really hard to do that. There's a guy called Martin Waldron was brilliant at recruiting. And we also targeted the Reds because we knew if we got them, we get the blues anyway. Not initially. We had to work really hard to develop a reputation.
Yeah.
A reputation around being really for the youngsters, being about, if you like, the kids first. So Ray, ex-PE teacher, myself, ex-PE teacher, Mike Dickinson, ex-PE teacher. Ray was quite clever with how he recruited, and we targeted the youngest players, 6, 7, 8 years of age. You were only allowed to sign them at 9. Liverpool were doing the same.
Yeah, of course.
And the kids, Connor Cody would be a great example. They would bounce between the 2, and eventually they had to make a decision to sign. And in that era, thankfully, we got most of them. Not all of them.
Not all of them.
Most of them.
one you did get was Wayne Rooney, who,
Yes.
I mean, is he, probably putting you on the spot here, but is he the most talented young player you've ever seen? You can say no if it isn't. I'm just saying.
He'd be
Up there.
in a group.
Right, okay.
There'd be Wayne, who you can easily argue would be. Joe Cole, that I'd seen
Of
at the
course,
national
fantastic.
school, was incredible with what he could do with the ball at his feet. Steven Gerrard, obviously, as we've already discussed. And I'm going to put Francis Jeffers in the same group.
Okay.
Francis, listen to how I call him. Don't call him Francis. Francis introduces himself to my daughters as, "Hiya, I'm Francis. I'm your dad's biggest regret." And the regret really is, Franny should have played for England alongside Wayne for 10 years. He was that good. Wenger got it right. He was definitely a fox in the box. He could predict where that ball was going to be, and he had great ability to score. And it's not for me to say why it didn't happen. Maybe you interview him. I'm sure he'll explain.
Yeah, it was Franny Jeffers was weird because he looked like he just reminded me so much of Ian Rush, the way he could, like you're saying, predict where his runs is. He should bend his run brilliantly. He was cool, and it looked like he was going to be our striker for a few years, and then obviously.
So can you imagine what it was like for us, me, but us as a staff at Everton? We get told that England are going to play Australia, and he's going to. It was Sven Goran, I think, wasn't it? And he picks 22 players, and they're going to change the team at half time. And in the second half, the two front players are going to be Jeffers and Rooney, and that's Wayne's first game, I think.
Yeah.
I've still got a programme. Must be worth a fortune. Wayne and Franny signed it. Amazing experience. And we were having these experiences non-stop, year after year after year, with the young players, and you just think it's going to last forever, and of course it doesn't, does it?
No.
But it was an incredibly special time for everybody at Everton's academy, and ultimately the whole club.
Yeah, but it was a fantastic time. In terms of Rooney, then what? I've spoke to Ray Hall, and Ray is scoring this goalless overhead kick at United. I think it's at United and something else, And when you looked at him, because he scored tons of goals, didn't he? And obviously, when you're involved in kids, you watch kids football. I've been doing it with my lad. You watch and you see, the odd play and go, "Oh, straight away, he looks good." But what was that like with Wayne then?
Good, yeah.
Yeah, he looks okay. He's not bad.
Wayne always played up an age group.
Yeah, which is
and then I think we did okay in that we also. I remember they played Manchester City, and he got battered, which is strange to imagine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Physically, he got beat up. And Jeanette's mum said, "Neil, I'm not so sure I like this." And so we just put him back in his own age group very briefly, while he physically, and I know people will just think he was always like this man.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't. And then in the summer of his under-14 year, he came back and he played in the under-15s pre-season game against Tranmere Rovers, and he'd become Wayne Rooney. Okay, he was able to just run past people easily. He was able to kind of power in confrontations people who were 2 years older than him easily. And Tranmere, again, in that era, they weren't easy to play against. They had a reputation for being aggressive and tough. And here's a young kid who's just basically swatting them away and scoring goal after goal after goal. So that was when I think and people will say, "Oh, you could tell at 8 or 9. Well, I've got to say that was my moment when I thought, "Wow, you're pretty special."
Yeah.
Not like the best player at Everton, not the best player on Merseyside. Wow.
Yeah.
Because I'd had that experience at the National School of seeing the best in the country, and I'm thinking, he's better than all that. So that was it, and he went from there. I've got so many stories, most of which I've shared with him in the last 6 months. We've had some good conversations. He remembers, by the way, every goal from when he was 10 through to everything else he's done. His memory is incredible. So after that moment, he kind of obviously he progresses really quickly. I remember Colin coming one day saying, "Who's this Rooney?" So I said, "Him over there." So Colin kind of watches the game. I can't remember who we were playing, and he comes back and he goes, "You got any more?" I said, "I don't think so, Colin. Do you?" So he said, "Okay." That was almost the last I saw of him, really.
Yeah.
So then he goes with Colin in the youth team. He's with Colin for 3 seconds, and and then he's the rest.
Yeah.
The problem was Wayne needed Wayne to play with.
Yeah.
Because there was no one really as good. I remember Tommy Gravison turning up to watch training one night with his girlfriend. Just turned up one night to watch the academy, and Wayne was playing, and he walked straight into the middle of the pitch, and Tommy goes, "Neil." I'm like, "Tom, get off the pitch.
There's a game."
He said, "Who's he?" I said, "That's Wayne Rooney." He said, "He's better than the first team." I said, "I know." Thomas goes in and tells everybody. Now, not immediately, but very soon after that, I get kind of noisy. "Neil, you're telling everybody there's a player better than the first team." I said, "I haven't said that." I said, "What I've said is we've got a real special talent." And he said, "Yeah, okay." Colin's saying the same. So he trains with the first team at Belfield. Now, we trained as a youth team before them, so we finished, and they must have started late that day. So all the youth team, Anthony Barry being one, who's now the England assistant manager,
He is, yeah.
we're sat on the side of the pitch, lovely sunny day, watching the training session, and there's Wayne, and there's a cross coming in, and he scores with his right foot. Cross comes in from the other side, he scores with his left foot. The next cross comes in, he scores with a header. The youth team are all applauding, because they're all hoping like crazy he's going to do well.
Yeah.
And that was it. He was just better than everybody else. Tommy was right.
It's mad, isn't it? Because obviously I was working at Everton at the time, so you're hearing this name. Got this player who's doing really well. This is before, I think it was before the goal at Tottenham in the youth, which was unbelievable, by the way. I told him when he was in how much I loved that goal. When he hit it with his right foot and he come back and he hit it with his left foot at White Hart Lane. But everyone's getting excited by that. But I'm just really interested in your point of view there, because other people are getting really excited, and yet up to that point you're sort of going, it's not bad, and then you see him turn up and it clicks, because you have had that grounding, you have seen a lot of talent at younger ages, and you're going, I'm sure there was probably lads you looked at and went, he's not, and they haven't quite done it. And then you go with England and you see the level of the rest of the country, and then you're able to put that into perspective with Wayne Rooney and go, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And don't let me underestimate how good Wayne was.
No, I know. I just mean for you, because you've seen what is elite, what you would say is elite at that level.
Yeah. Incredibly exciting to realise that this is different.
Yeah.
This is not just very, very good. This is different.
Yeah.
There'll be other youth coaches around the country that will have had those moments, but I'm not so sure there'll be too many that's had a Wayne Rooney or Steven Gerrard moment. So I feel very lucky, really, to have come across them really early in their journeys.
I know, but it's you talk about Rooney there, who then went on to become, and only recently, just being England's highest goal scorer, which is, when you look back, I mean, how proud were you when he made his debut against Tottenham? Because I remember going to Southampton at the end of the season before, and he was on the bench and he was warming up, and it was weird because obviously he hadn't played, and he started warming up, and the whole Everton then stood up and they're singing his name. The lad's not even got on the pitch and kicked the football for the first team, which was a weird moment. I've just got goosebumps. I've just literally got some weird goosebumps then thinking about that moment again, because it was such a weird moment, and there was this buzz obviously was bouncing, and then obviously he plays in pre-season. I think he goes up to Scotland and does brilliant. He scores a hat-trick, and we beat Queen's Park 6-0, whoever it is, we win 6-0 at Hampden. I think he scores a hat-trick, 5-0. And then he starts against Spurs, and as an assist, they'd be lauded. I don't know whether people were loving the assists in them days when he started, but now you know, he set a goal up on his debut in the Premier League. And for you, seeing that journey from 10, 11, having a conversation with his mum about whether he should be playing up or not, to seeing him walk out as a Premier League footballer, making his debut at age 16, I mean, that must be an unbelievable moment for you.
I once went to a conference, and Steve Highway talked about he'd seen people, obviously, Michael Owen and others, Steven Gerrard, make their debuts, and he talked about how he's filled up. Yeah. And I thought, you soft so-and-so, right? How wrong was I? Right. So not just seeing Wayne make his debut, but every single player, there is a moment as someone who's been involved in the development of that player where Steve Highway was right. There is a moment where you do fill up. There is a moment, I'm doing it now. There is a moment where the hairs on the back of your neck stand up on your arms. Yeah. It is what you go to work for every day, but it's so hard. And although in that period we had so much success producing numbers of players, not all Wayne Rooney's, but other players, Mark Hughes, who kind of, I don't know, Mark, forgive me, but 2 or 3 appearances would be just as important to us as Wayne becoming one of the best, if not the best, in that time in the world. So, every single one of them. It's a very special moment.
I can see it in your face there, and it is that thing, because you're absolutely right that it's getting England's greatest ever goal scorer until recently, like I've said, till Harry Kane has overtaken it. Is an it's an unbelievable achievement to be involved in that development and bringing them through. But you're also creating footballers, whether it's League 2, League 1. Yeah, you're creating footballers. Yes. They're giving these lads, helping them. Their talent and hard work will get them there, but you're helping them along the way to have a career in what is it, less than 1%, is it? Something like that. It's crazy, the numbers of people who want to do it to the lads who actually achieve it. Yeah. It's unbelievable. So to play your part in that must be an unbelievable feeling.
Without a shadow of a doubt. It's probably harder to get into the Premier League than it is to get into Oxford or Cambridge, I would imagine. I think someone's proven that statistically as well. So to see all these lads make their debuts was absolutely sensational. Fond memories. I've got a confession, by the way.
Go on.
So you talked about Wayne and Southampton. Yeah. So he gets picked. Now, I can't remember whether the game was a Saturday, but let's say it was Saturday. Yeah. Okay. So every Friday, the team sheet used to go up in a little glass case at Belfield. So the first time Wayne's name is ever on an Everton team sheet, and it gives them the details of reports at this time, were this and so on, is in this glass case. So Friday night, I'm coaching. Everyone's gone. I'm locking Belfield up. Okay. And there's this team sheet. So I go into the glass case, take the team sheet down, and thought, I'm going to keep that. Okay. So I've still got that at home. If anyone was looking for it, I've got that. And I must have known, mustn't I, that something pretty special was about to happen. Yeah. Now, it didn't happen that day, obviously, but it did happen. So I've got that. He wore a strange number, I think, that day.
I can't even, because obviously you start the training gear on, so I don't know. But we won the game 1-0. Steve Watson scored. Okay. We stayed up. That was the game that sort of meant Everton was safe. It was a 5:15 kickoff at St Mary's or something crazy on a Saturday night. But we won the game, but we didn't see a shirt because obviously he had his training gear on.
Well, the numbers would have been on the team sheet.
Yeah, they'd have been on the team sheet. Yeah.
Wayne will, if you listen to this, he'll text me, I'm sure, what the number was. But I'm pretty sure it was 32. I could be a mile off. Yeah. But
wasn't his number. Yeah. I mean, I want to go back to Wayne Rooney in a minute, but obviously, the players, Tony Hibbert, Leon Osman, were earlier, weren't they? Obviously won the Youth Cup in 98. Think you get there 97, was it?
97.
You win the Youth Cup in 98, was it? Yeah. And I mean, Leon Osman was one who was... I don't think Leon gets the credit he deserves, really. He had to have a couple of spells on loan at Carlisle, and I think he said himself when he went up to Carlisle the first couple of games, he maybe didn't take it. He didn't take it seriously, but it was like, I'm just here on loan, and a couple of their centre backs grabbed hold of him and said, "This is our livelihood, and if you're not going to do it," and that flipped him, and I think he ended up being one of their best players. Then he went to Derby, and that was really where, because he had a couple of bad injuries as well, hadn't he? But we won the Youth Cup at that time, and he was obviously instrumental in that, Leon, wasn't he? And then to see him go and do what he did as well.
So Leon and Ibo would play in the B team on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And I took the B team a number of times again. So Colin would take the A team. I took the B team. And they started off as first year scholars in the B team. And anyway, the FA Youth Cup kind of starts as it did. It would have been January time. And Mick O'Brien and David Poppleton were the two centre midfield players. And I'm thinking, lads, you're going to lose your place to these two. Now, Mick and Poppy were good, but these two were very good. And Colin desperately wanted to do things right by the players. Again, a big thing for all of us. Treat everybody correctly. It was a big theme that we had. And logically, you pick the second years before the first years. Yeah. But I knew he was going to have to change. And at some point during that cup run, they changed. And obviously, in comes Ozzy and in comes Ibo. I can still feel the pain for Mick O'Brien. Yeah. Mick scored an unbelievable goal in the semi-final at Leeds, but these two were what they obviously proved to be. Remind me, how many appearances did they both make?
Ozzy was, I'm sure it was 400 or something like that, and Hibbert will have been probably maybe 300. I don't know them numbers. I know Ozzy was around 400. Not Premier League. Seamus has got the Premier League one, but Ozzy was over 400, and Hibbert would have been, I'm sure, over 300 because they got in and played for. I mean, Tony Hibbert in centre midfield is a mad thing anyway, because obviously a lot of Evertonians will just know him as a right back. But I remember playing for Everton's staff team actually, and Tosh Farrell, I think, who had done a bit of coaching, I was saying, because Everton was struggling at the time, and he was like, got a lad in the youth team, and I put him in midfield now, Hibbo. He said, I put him in, he'll smash a few and get, and all of that. And obviously later on, he does get in the team and he's there. And Ozzy the same, in and saved Everton money, They weren't the most glamorous players, but they were lads who come through, who played for Everton the whole career. And Ozzy was brilliant. A little bit more pace. I think Ozzy would have been. Champions League teams would have chased him because his talent with a football was incredible.
Don't forget, played for England.
Yeah, he did.
Did really well in that.
He did, yeah. Although we had a moustache for that. I know it was Movember, but I reckon he looks back and goes, "Oh, look at me moustache there." Could have got a goatee maybe, but
he got bashed in Sweden.
Yeah.
So we remember when Ibo broke into the team, we used to joke with him. So his first few games, he had to mark Thierry Henry. Then Ryan Giggs, and I can't remember who the other one was.
Tough.
Who was it this week? So
and
so.
Yeah.
Just amazing, and he just got on with it.
Yeah.
Fantastic personalities, both of them. Completely different. One spoke and still does an awful lot, and the other one, I don't know where he'll be fishing somewhere.
Yeah. No, he'd done brilliantly. Just back to Wayne then quickly, and then we'll move on from there. But again, we talked about his debut. What was it like then when... obviously his first goals for Everton, first thing came at Wrexham. We won 3-0 at Wrexham, and he obviously... We were very excited then that this young lad has got on the score sheet there. But the Arsenal game is just... There's an unbelievable... For not winning anything, it's still an unbelievable memory, so, just that moment.
Have you ever had an out-of-body experience? Okay. Now, I don't know what that means really, other than... I think I had one when he scored.
Okay.
So I'm stood next to Gary Ablett, and you've seen Thunderbirds where they move.
Yeah.
Well, I know my body is doing
all that, yeah.
And I can't stop it, and I don't really care. Okay. Don't forget, I think he nearly scores an even better one
just after
about 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
Off the outside of his right foot.
Chip Seaman, doesn't he? And it lands on the top of the net. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So, I was in the box behind the goal at the park end with Gary, and we're going stupid.
Just unbelievable, because they were, 30 odd games unbeaten, and they were a tremendous team, weren't they? And they'd been winning in the game. They were just, and then to him to come on, and I remember, I think Arsene Wenger said when he stood up to come on the ground, stood up and he said something changed. He said, and we're all looking. He's like, who's this? Who's coming on here? You know, when he jogs on, and a few minutes later he does that. I just love the fact he said, I knew I had to score before I was 17, and this was my last. And you're just like, what? Because he was 17 in the week, wasn't he? That was the last game before he was 17.
Yeah, and being with him recently, though those things were really prominent in his mind all the way through his career. He would have, the psychologists call it goal setting. Yeah. Wayne was goal setting for himself before he'd probably even heard of goal setting. Yeah. He knew what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it. It was funny. My two daughters we'd sit, and obviously he's gone to Manchester United by this, and I would shout goal before he's done it, watching the telly, and they used to say, "Dad, how did you know he was gonna?" Because nothing changed from when he was younger. Yeah, the body shapes, the goals that he scored, he just got bigger and stronger and slightly better. Yeah. But all the goals are the same goals.
I think unbelievable talent, and of that day, like you say, the one after it, when it lands on the top of the net, would have been even better. And it's like, wow, wow.
We had a lovely moment when we were at Plymouth together, where I said to him, "Have you ever seen this video?" So it was a video that I think only two people have got it. John Murter, who put it together, and myself, because I asked for a copy immediately. Yeah. And it's the FA Youth Cup run where the lads get to the final and lose to Villa. Once a blue. Yeah. Okay. And you realise when you just watch the goals that were scored. So John put this video together for the final to show them. Oh, okay. So the final's not on it. Yeah. But every other round is. And his contributions, incredible. So where he scores the overhead kick for United and goes off to the corner and gives it all that, he does that in the quarter-final against Nottingham Forest when he scores. So that celebration's not new either. Yeah, everything's been seen when he was younger. To see the things that he could do, and bearing in mind he was 2 years younger than everybody else. So Shuey was captain of the team 2 years older than Wayne, who's still at school. Amazing. And no, you can't have the video.
I was going to say, can I have a copy of this video to see these goals, Neil?
No, that's staying on my computer.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And it's still a massive Evertonian now, isn't he? You know, no matter what he's done at United, he's still the crazy blue, isn't he?
And the boys.
The boys, they're all, well, So, fair play. Other players that come through while you were there, Ross Barkley, unbelievable talent again. Yeah. Brilliant. Jack Rodwell. You've mentioned Franny, Richard Dunn, Michael Ball, Phil Evans, Danny Cadamarti, Victor Anichebe, James Vaughan. All of these lads played in our first team and did a good job. Got us money as well in there as well, which is obviously part of the academy. If they're not going to stay, do we make money from it? Yeah. Ross Barkley, unbelievable talent. Hasn't quite reached what I thought he was capable of, certainly when he broke in. What did you make of Ross coming through?
So Ross, a bit like seeing Steven Gerrard strike the ball, Ross could do that off both feet. Yeah. And would score ridiculous goals. Started playing centre half in the academy teams. Just because we needed a centre half, not because he was one. Yeah. But he was a little bit bigger and stronger than everybody else, so he started there. But the plan was always, obviously, that he was going to play in midfield. Yeah. He actually we played an FA Youth Cup tie one night at Brighton, and he played centre forward. And we won 1-0. I don't think he scored, but he definitely played centre forward, so he could play anywhere. Yeah. He was really talented at striking the ball. Yeah. Really talented at manipulating the ball. Yeah. Occasionally made a strange decision or two, which I'm sure he would say, but incredibly talented all the same. And we're going to go back to kind of what we said earlier. Wayne's quite a high bar.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
So for all Evertonians to think that there's another Wayne Rooney, with respect to us all, let's hope there is going to be another one.
Absolutely.
But that's a big ask.
Yeah.
You know, there was one Dixie Dean, there's one Wayne Rooney, there was one Alan Ball.
Yeah.
And I know the pathways were different.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is those superstars, few and far between.
Yeah. No, I think it's amazing to have it. And obviously, we're all disappointed the football club wasn't in a better place, that we could have kept Wayne when he first. I know he came back and he was still great when he came back, in all fairness, but obviously his best years were at United. It's just a pity Everton weren't at his level for a little bit, where we could have kept him longer. But you're right, it's sort of... I often say this about Tom Davies.
It's another one.
The Man City, brilliant, really, really talented footballer coming through. The Man City goal ruined him in a way, because it set expectations too high for what Tom was. That goal was brilliant. It was send Yaya Toure, the shop and all of that, does the chop and dinks it over. It was a brilliant goal, which shows that the talent that he had. But I think a lot of people thought we'd see that quite a lot, and it wasn't really an aspect of his game. And also he suffered from managerial changes and everything else. Ross Barkley is one where you look and just go, he sort of got everything. This kid can shoot right and left, can dribble, beat people, strong, physically, can get about the pitch. The decision making with Ross, I think, you'll know more than me. You will see him growing up, whether that was a thing he could have developed, but he still looks stuck sometimes of the simple balls on, and he hangs on to it just a little. And where I think that was a thing, and again, you've already answered it, because you just said, well, Wayne Rooney was here though. Wayne Rooney would just lay that ball off, and you'd have a tap in, and he'd know that was he always seemed to make the right pass, Wayne, most of the time. I'm probably romanticising it a little bit, but he seemed to, and I think you see that with the likes of Gerrard, and the real top players seem more often than not to make the right pass, even if there's a shot on themselves. Ross, I think, got caught in his own head of, I've done all the hard bit, I want to whack it in the top corner. And I went, sometimes the little 3-yarder was on for a tap-in and everyone would have gone to him anyway. Trying to drum this into my own boy is that rolling it off for a tap-in's just as good as you bending it in. Did you see that, or am I being a little bit harsh on him, do you think?
Yeah, I think you're being very harsh.
Okay, fair play.
We're talking about an England international.
Yeah, no, I think he's a brilliant footballer. I'm just saying.
Who you'll appreciate. I'm going to defend every single Everton Academy product.
Yeah, of course.
That is my DNA.
And
I ain't changing.
Yeah.
But you make a great point. Expectations from the fans. That's tough after Wayne.
Yeah.
So all the players that followed would have kind of had to deal with that.
Yeah.
But then that's the challenge. That's the exciting bit. Can you be as... And again, none of us at the academy, and Ray was really good to drive this. We never talked about the lads playing for Everton, although that was kind of obvious, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No one ever said that. We always talked about giving them the best chance to be a footballer.
Yeah.
And if that footballer was at Everton in the Premier League, great.
Brilliant,
we really wanted that. But if it was also at a club in Division 2, then that's also success.
Yeah.
Now, Ross has played, I haven't got the data, but he'll have played an awful lot of games in the Premier League. That's pretty good.
Oh, he's been... I'm so... Sorry, I really like Ross Barkley. I think he's a great player. I'm just talking about what I envisaged this talent to be and what I'd seen on occasion. More often than not, he was brilliant for Everton. When he left, it's why he gets so much stick that I don't think anyone wanted him to leave. And obviously the way it played out, people didn't like the way it... I think he'd have gone in the summer, people would have been more accepting because of the way it went. Anyway, that's a different thing. But I think...
Do you think we should
scored a lot of goals.
Anthony Gordon in the same
Anthony
way?
Gordon's another one, isn't he? He's another one who... Me personally, I think Ross Barkley's far more talented than Anthony Gordon as a footballer. Anthony Gordon's done fantastically well for Newcastle. Pace, gets up and down. I think Ross had more skill. Anthony Gordon's another one who... I don't think he handled himself brilliantly, which is why it is where it is. And I think when he left, it was a good deal for Everton and it was a good deal for Newcastle. And that he's become a really good player at Newcastle, like a really, really good player at Newcastle.
You know, one of the nice things is, I think, we're passionate about our own, aren't we?
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
And therefore, we give them some pretty fierce challenges. They've all got to be as good as Wayne.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They've all got to stay forever and play for Everton forever.
Forever, yeah.
Okay, well, the world's not like that anymore.
No.
Every club in the world is a selling club. Even Barcelona and Real Madrid sell their young players. And we expect them to nod their heads and say yes sir, no sir. Tough ask, Kay.
Oh, no. Listen, it's why it's difficult, isn't it? It's why it is such a tough thing, and it's why probably a lot of them. I don't know. We've probably lost players who probably would have been players, and we expect, are all guilty of it. We expect every time they jog out on that pitch that they're perfect, that nothing's going on in the life, that they can cope with what can be critical at times, because you don't, with fans, I think you don't put it. You go into that stadium, you're carrying whatever else has gone on in the week. You want Everton to. If it's Everton, if it's Liverpool, if it's Man, whoever it is, you want them. Liverpool are doing it now with Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I was just about to say,
being unbelievable for them, being fantastic, won everything.
Yeah.
He can walk out of Liverpool, but his head held high. He's won everything. There's no challenge. People can go, well, you didn't win that. Like Steven Gerrard, people go, you didn't win the Premier League. We won everything else. We didn't win the Premier League. Jamie Carragher's another can't say that to Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's won everything, and he's got the biggest club in world football going. Come and play for us. So he's going to get it as well. It's local lads, isn't it? They're going to get it. We want them to do so well. We also want them to play brilliantly every single week. We also want them to be Evertonians, Liverpudlians, Manchester United fans, whoever it is for their club. So there is a huge demand on it. And it is really difficult. It is. I'm just saying, I was just talking with Ross in isolation just because, for me, the talent I was looking at him thinking, because there was a big chat about him in Delhi at the time. He was another one who sadly, his career took a different turn. And I'd say Ross Barkley's better than Delhi. Delhi's playing in a better team, but Ross Barkley as a footballer with talent, what he can do physically, and and Ravel Morrison was another one another hugely talented. United fans will tell you all. He's hugely talented, wasn't he? I've heard a few managers saying, the best talent I've ever. Alex Ferguson said one of the best talents he's seen. Didn't do a thing because of everything else. He played in the Premier League, so he did. But he's another troubled soul because he's been to different places. And Wayne had him at DC, and it didn't quite work out there for him. He was having that from United fans, wasn't he? He's got to do this. Marcus Rashford, who's been unbelievable at a club. And on the outside, you look and go, was he a United fan? Why isn't he happy? Why isn't he playing? Why isn't he? So there's huge challenges with these lads that come through. If we'd have bought Ross Barkley as an 18-year-old from Southampton, he'd have probably got an easier ride. If we'd have bought Anthony Gordon from whoever, he'd have got an easier ride. But I think Anthony Gordon one was slightly different. I don't expect you to join in on this.
Anthony was my last, when I say mine. Yeah. So I actually signed Anthony. He was under 12.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah,
I moved to England.
Yeah.
So it sounds great to say it's my last signing, which is true. But actually, after that, the lads such as Sean London and so on and Paul Tate will have helped him no end, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, he done well, and at the time, did he handle the end of it right? Probably not. No, we didn't, but that's football, and Everton got good money out of it. Newcastle paid a fee they're happy with, and they'll double it now if he goes to Liverpool, which is where he wants to go. We'll see where he ends up. Leaving. Go on.
Okay. I didn't know that. Is he going? Because there was talk last season that he was going to go to Liverpool.
Well, it's only I don't know Anthony Gordon, so I couldn't say that. Okay. All the stuff and the noise around it is he wants to move to Liverpool. They're his boyhood club, and Liverpool want him if they want him. They're a top side, so why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you go to a team that will be Premier League champions? It looks like by the time this, in the summer.
Move on.
We'll see. The time come to leave Everton. How difficult was that England come calling for you? How difficult was that? The decision?
Incredibly difficult.
Was it?
So Everton, and had done 17 years.
Yeah. Successful 17 years.
Yeah, we were producing a lot of talented players that we referred to were, for what it's worth, doing well in competitions, and everything's in a really good place. It was home. It was comfortable, but not too comfortable.
Yeah.
And I probably saw myself being there forever.
Right. Yeah.
At that time. If I'm really honest. It just felt great. And we're starting to come through another cycle of the players, if that makes sense. So I get a phone call completely out of the blue from Dan Ashworth. Hi Neil, how are you? Yeah, okay. Now, I knew Dan a little bit from his West Brom days, but not a lot. I'd sat with him at a couple of England games. In fact, about a month earlier, I'd sat with him at Rochdale, where John Lundstram, Eric Dyer, and Ross, I think, were playing for England against whoever. And we sat and talked. Little did I know, we must have gone away and thought, I've got to get him to work for England. So he rings me up and he says, can I invite you to St George's? So I said, Dan, I've been loads to St George's. No, he said, I want to invite you. Will you come and have a cup of coffee? So I was really curious. So
Bit of a trek for a coffee. There's no Costa closer now.
Yeah. And I'm sure I said something like, I'll come for a coffee, but I'm not leaving Everton. Right. So he said, just come. So he shows me around, gives it all the big spiel and so on. And he said, have you ever coached in the hall? Big hall at St George, it's beautiful. So I said, no. He said, do you want to go? So I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we've got this demonstration session next week. Will you be the guest coach? So I thought, yeah, I'll have a go at that. So I ended up coaching some university team. Okay. And again, without probably realising it, he was just double checking that I was what he had been told or he thought I was.
Yeah.
So that obviously went okay. So he grabs me afterwards and he says, okay, let's stop messing around. He said, Neil, I want you to come and join me here at the FA. So I said, to do what? He said, well, what would you want to do? So stupidly, but maybe not stupidly now, as it's turned out, I said, well, I'd love to take a national team. That's pretty good. So he said, okay, choose. Oh, he said, you can't have the first team. He said, that's Roy Hodgson's. He said, but choose. So he kind of really took me aback. So I'm sure I didn't answer because the coaches who were in post, I knew. They were not colleagues in an Everton sense, but colleagues in terms of I knew them all from competing against them or working with them around the country. So I get back in my car. I don't know whether you know, from the hotel area at St George's, the building, to the gate, it's probably about a mile. So I'm in the car and I get halfway up and I stop the car and I ring home, to which one of the girls answered, said, put your mum on the phone. So I'm on loudspeaker. So said, they've offered me a job for England. So I think it was our Amy, the youngest, shouts, Dad, can we still support Everton? So I said, yeah, of course. And the other one goes, Dad, you can't say no to England. And that was it. That was it. So I then continued and I stopped the car again, I promise, at the front gate. And I rang Dan and I said, okay, let's have a proper conversation. So we ended up, and because I knew the other coaches, England at the time had teams at 17, 19, 21. What they didn't have was an under-18s or an under-20s. Now, the rest of the big nations, Italy, France, Spain, Germany, they all had teams, so they never missed a year.
Okay.
So I kind of said, Dan, any plans about having an 18s? And he said, yeah, why? I said, well, I'm not coming to take anyone's job. If you have an 18s, can I take them? So he said, done, on one condition. Go on. He said, make it the best under-18 programme in the world.
No pressure.
So no pressure. My passport was tired, by the way, by the time I left the FA. We were all over the world. So amazing. So that was how it happened. So then I've got to come back to Everton the next day, and I tried to speak to Alan Irvine. By this time, Alan had come back as academy manager. I was in charge of all the coaching, and Ray had left. For 3 days, I promise, I tried to get Alan's attention. And every time, he tells me he didn't know, but I'm sure he did, right? And he just kept walking away because he didn't want the conversation. Anyway, so I waited for him one night, and I said, right, sit down, do not move, don't speak. And I told him, and he just smiled, and he said, fantastic, Neil, congratulations. And that was it.
That was it. And off you went.
Off I went.
Off you went. I mean, what was the differences there then? So you're leaving something you've known for 17 years, brought a great record, worked with David Moyes, who's ironically back at Everton now as the manager.
Yeah.
Obviously had a good relationship with that, given the quality of players that he got out here. I mean, we've already mentioned, Osman and Hibbert and Barkley, who was in there as well, and others, Rooney. To go and to set up this best programme in the world at 18, was it difficult? What do you even do with that? How did you start that? What was your first sort of...
Yeah.
How did you get your teeth into it?
Let me say, that was only part of the job.
Okay.
So the other part of the job was to be responsible for the development nationally of all the coaches in what they call the professional development phase,
right,
which was 17s to 21s.
Yeah.
So they had another guy, Dan Machichi, who's at Everton now, who did the 12s to 16s, and Pete Sturgis, who lives in Wigan, who was in charge of the babies. So we were so-called the 3 leading lights in the country, which was a tough sell. So you've got to go in to Manchester United or Arsenal or wherever and basically guide, advise,
okay,
and so on and so. That's if they want.
If they want it, yeah. Gonna say.
So politically, working for the FA is a challenge. So that was part of the job as well. And then a third part, which he threw in just for the hell of it, was, okay, we want to set up this scheme whereby ex-England internationals transfer from playing to coaching. So I said, okay. And I then realised that the people he's referring to are Steven Gerrard, who I knew, Phil Neville, who I knew, and one or two others that I didn't know, but certainly those two were they were easy conversations.
Yeah.
Okay, so we obviously Phil ends up managing the women's team and is in the States now, isn't he, at Portland?
Yeah, Portland, yeah.
Okay, and Stephen went back to Liverpool. Had the cheek to ask if I would assist him. I said, Stephen, I don't think that's going to work, do you? So that was kind of another part of the job.
Yeah.
So I was busy, but it was brilliant. So how do you go about picking the best under-18s in the country? Mm-hmm. Well, you get out and watch loads of games.
Right.
You make a zillion phone calls to people that I'd been competing with, okay, and then you realise, quite frankly, or I did, that most of the best players were up here.
Really?
So I took, an example of that would be, I take the under-17s to the World Cup in Chile 2015.
Yeah.
2 central midfield players are Tom Davis and Trent. So Trent played in midfield.
So I was going to say, he's played in midfield before. You were the
we played
light.
Well, no, we just played him there. We played Brazil, and those two were the two. We got beat 1-0, but the two of them ran all over Brazil. We just couldn't score.
Right.
Steffi Mavadidi missed a load. Not that I hold a grudge, Steffi.
No. Looked like it.
So a lot of the players at the time were Everton, Liverpool, United, City.
Yeah.
With a sprinkling maybe of the London clubs.
Yeah.
So again, kind of easy conversations to have. So people that I've just spent 17, 20 years competing like crazy with, all of a sudden I'm in best mates, which was quite fun and interesting.
Well, what was that like then, that taking a national team for the first time? And was it a proud moment?
Yeah, incredibly proud. Again, incredibly lucky. I loved every single second of my time at Everton. Got to work with some great people who helped the careers of some fantastic players. Then you've not got one or two in your team like we had. Let's say we had 4 really good talents in every year group at Everton.
Yeah.
England, there's every single player is a bit of a wow factor.
Right, yeah.
They're just all very, very good. And as a coach, you actually speak less because you don't need to say, this is how you, because they can.
Because they can do it.
So really, it was more about building a team.
Yeah.
Lots of team building work, lots of tactical work in terms of how not just the team I was responsible for, but the whole England programme was going to play. And we did okay. So in my period, we've ended up being world champions at 17, at 20, European champions at 19, winning the biggest tournament outside of international competition, which is a tournament called Toulon in southern France.
Which you won.
Yeah, did
you won. No, I just wanted to come on to that because you skated over that, but you actually won it in 2017.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, that was in fact better than pretty good. It was an amazing experience. Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on that experience.
Right. Yeah.
So we actually played the Ivory Coast in the final, in the hottest day in France for 40 years.
Wow.
Amazing. And I'm shouting at the players, encouraging the players in the last 10 minutes. I'm literally going 9 minutes, 8 minutes, 7 minutes, and they score. So we end up winning on penalties.
Right.
Sensational. Great experience.
What a moment that is.
So that was really good. So in that period, again, really lucky. I think at the FA, I was the only person, along with an analyst, Alex Scanlon, who worked for Everton and has just gone back to the FA, who had a World Cup winners' medal from the India World Cup, where my job was to mentor Steve Cooper. The under-18 tournament in Toulon. The under-19 won the Euros. I was part of that with Keith Downing. Yeah, the only person who had those 3, World, Euros and Toulon. So, again, pretty proud to have achieved that. Really good.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable achievement, isn't it? When you're going through it there, talking about it like that. It's how many people do that? Not many.
No. Like
to win one's great, isn't it? But to be involved in 3 of those, huge tournaments, and to win them all as well, it's sensational.
And the players. So the players that will have come out of that, the Fodens, the Sanchos, the Mark Guies, all those kind of players. Pretty special.
What was it like seeing like a Foden at that? Because you obviously see him in the Premier League and he's incredible. And Jadon Sancho's another one.
So
but
you
Foden,
asked me for those players that were pretty special.
Yeah.
I think I said Wayne, Steven Gerrard, Joe Cole, maybe Franny.
Yeah.
He's just below that.
Really?
So tells you how good the others are.
Yeah.
At the same time. He's fantastic, by the way, Foden.
Yeah.
So you made a comment about Ross making a mistake or two. This fella's brain is sensational.
Yeah. Not a mistake, just a pause when there's a pass on, that was all. Just decision making at times, that was all.
So can you imagine the front players in that tournament that we had? We got Foden on one side.
Yeah.
We have Sancho on the other. But he's got to go back to Dortmund. So Hudson-Odoi goes out there.
Not bad.
We got Brewster down the middle. And we bring Morgan Gibbs-White.
Not bad.
So I've got a photograph in my collection of, I think they'd played, I'm going to say Japan or whoever, in I think the quarter-final. And the players that don't play the next day train. So we train, and there's like a massive storm in India. Well, again, people who've been in India will know it rains, but it's warm, the rain.
Yeah.
So we just carry on playing. So we've got this photograph, me, Steve Cooper, Mike Marsh, the rest of the staff, with the lads who trained. So that's not the lads who've played the night before.
Yeah.
It's kind of the second choice group at the time. In there are people like Emile Smith-Rowe, Conor Gallagher, Lewis Gibson, who's just played Preston. There'll be others I can't remember now, but
good players.
I mean, wow. So, yeah, Morgan Gibbs-White, I was going to say. We just had some incredible talent. But the academies are producing and continue to produce incredible talent in England every year. So I would argue England should be competitive, particularly at the younger stages, that's at 17, 18, every single year.
Right.
Because we have an abundance of top talent.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit more complicated as you go older, because the high flyers go straight to the first team.
Yeah.
So after maybe 17s, 18s, you've never really got the best talent in its own age group ever again.
Yeah.
Which distorts the picture a little bit, really.
Should England have won something, do you think, in the last 10 years? The men's national team, they've had obviously 2 finals, a semi-final, a quarter-final. What do you think?
So Dan Ashworth's pitch, right from the word go, was the men were going to win in, you'll have to tell me the years, 2022 or something, and the women were going to win in a year later.
Right.
Now, COVID maybe messed the years up a little bit there with my memory.
Well, we had Qatar 22 World Cup, didn't we? Obviously, we'd had what was essentially a home tournament, haven't we, in 21?
So everything that we did around the national team was built
for that. Right.
Okay, so it's a tough place to be, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gareth actually got the team to, go and remind me, two finals,
a semi and a quarter-final.
And a quarter-final that they lose on penalties to someone who loses on penalties in the final. So, black and white, no, the men haven't achieved that.
Yeah.
But they ain't done bad.
No.
And some people will say, Gareth this, Gareth that.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean...
Well, that's right. It is a difficult one because people, like you said, people will be critical at times, but I'm thinking, well, in my lifetime, that's the best thing. Listen, could they have done more? You look at the talent of the players and you think, probably they could have won it maybe, but in my life, England have never had 4.
But again, and this is
like that,
this is us and our media. We're quite arrogant, aren't we? We almost have a divine right that we should win everything we go for. Just think of who you're playing against. At any one time, only one of these countries has got to be better than you. Brazil, Argentina, France, Spain, Germany, Italy. That's before you get the odd Croatia or something. We've no divine right to win. You've got to earn the right to win. And Garrett's got us incredibly close. And I think he did as well as he could do. And spit in a cough. Now, the challenge for the new manager is to do better than that. It's not going to be easy.
No, he is very good, Tuchel, obviously. He's a very good manager, but it's going to be, you're right, and it's going to be, again, it's in the United States, so everything that brings, the heat and all of that, can they do it? We'll wait and see. Obviously, you enjoyed your time at England. How did Plymouth Argyle come along then? And you're doing well?
So I'm coming to the end of my kind of time at the FA. And I'm looking around at, so what's next? And Stephen Schumacher rings me and he said, Neil, help. We're top of the league. They were at Bury. At this point, I'd never met Ryan Lowe. And he said, we were getting a little bit of help from someone who's got a bit of grey hair, but he's left. And we're getting towards the end of the season. And just come in, will you? Come and help. So Shuey, at that point, is a very inexperienced coach, someone who is definitely going to be talented at it, but he's learning. And Ryan's the same as a manager, but they're doing great. So I go in and do some coaching sessions with them, spend some time with Ryan on, I suppose, leadership and management, and loved it. So then the season finishes. Ryan rings me. Oh, they get promoted, by the way.
Right.
That's another matter.
I've gone. You're leaving that out for? That's an important. That's an important aspect.
So then Ryan rings and says, "Do you fancy coming to Plymouth with us?" I'm like, "Where's Plymouth?" So
quite far away.
A long way away. Tell me. So I said, "Okay, what?" Ryan, I'm not coming to Plymouth. He said, "Look, just come as much as you can." So I said, okay, let's see what happens. So we started off, and the pitch really was for me to mentor Ryan and Shuey. That was the deal, really. After about a month of going down a couple of days a week, I used to get to Manchester Airport, fly to Exeter, I'd get picked up,
Wow.
and then do 2 or 3 days. Sometimes staying with the Schumachers. Victoria would look after me all the other time in Ryan's flat.
Yeah.
So it was great fun. And then one day the owner grabs me, a guy called Simon Hallett, and says, "Neil, can me and Andrew Parkinson, who's the CEO, who ironically lives up here as well, Big Red, can we talk to you about something we're thinking about?" So I'm thinking, okay. So he said, "Look," he said, "we need a director of football. We think that's the way forward. Would you like to do it? You seem to know what you're doing." So my initial reaction was, I don't want to be a director of football. I'm a coach. Anyway, so I sat with the lads and said, "Look, they've asked me to do this. What do you think?" And Ryan straight away was, "Do it. Absolutely 100%. Do it." So I said, "Ryan, I'm not living in Plymouth full time. Right, I live up there."
Yeah.
Shuey had moved his whole family, good on him, and completely immersed himself in Plymouth. Ryan was killing himself up and down the motorway.
Right.
His family stayed in Liverpool.
Yeah.
So the owner said, "Okay, you can do it." He said, "Neil, I live in the States. Live on the moon if you want. Don't care. Just work it out and give it a go." So 5.5 years later, 2 promotions, one with Ryan, one with Shuey, a couple of interesting experiences. Ian Foster, who's from Whiston, and Wayne, obviously. And I mean it sincerely, the best time.
Yeah.
I learnt a lot about me. So I learnt a lot about aspects of football that I knew existed, but I hadn't experienced. So how do you liaise with an owner?
Yeah.
How do you liaise with a board of directors? Really fascinating.
Was it?
Yeah. Sometimes really good, sometimes really challenging. How then do you go and then say to Ryan or Shuey, the answer's no, or the answer's yeah, or sometimes they've said no, but I'm going to say yeah, just don't say it. All that kind of political mayhem you're suddenly having to deal with. And then because I'm a coach, my role on a Saturday, well, Thursday, Friday, I was always on the grass with them.
Yeah.
Kind of just monitoring, helping a little bit, guiding a little, being available to, if they wanted to say, "Thinking of playing this way," or "Thinking of playing this person. What do you think?" A sounding board. Never too hands-on.
Yeah.
They were the managers. They may disagree with that a little bit, but that was meant to be the way.
That was how it was, yeah.
And then on a Saturday, I'm mic'd up to the bench.
Okay.
So I'm the eyes in the sky.
You've gone up, yeah.
So I'm still a coach, giving technical information back to the bench. Then went into the staff room, talked about what we'd seen, and then whether it was Ryan or whether it was Shuey, or later Wayne and Foz, they would then go and obviously say the messages to the players. So incredibly involved, but the bit that I hadn't experienced before was that bit liaising with owners, CEOs, board members, who are really interesting, and people who've sat in or continue to sit in my role will know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's different.
I mean, how do you prepare for that then? Because you're a coach, you've asked for you to be the director of football. There's a real debate, I think, raging in football about directors of football, sporting directors, technical director, whatever you want to call it. I think people have an image of what happens on the continent.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether that happens in this country or not. You're better placed to tell me. What is it in your understanding, or is it a role? 2 questions in one. Your understanding of it.
Yeah.
And is it a role that fans need to be told about how it works? Because I think I think Manchester United just had it with a gentleman you just spoke about before, Dan Ashworth. They thought they were getting the recruitment type fella, but he seemed to be a Brighton anyway, a director who sorted everything else out as well as and work with recruitment, and that didn't work. So how did
also
how
a
did
coach,
you and
also
a coach,
a PE teacher.
there you go. So what you know what
Yeah.
What was your understanding of it, and what did you do
So
to
culturally,
combat it? Yeah.
we're different than the rest of Europe.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the rest of Europe have had this position forever.
Yeah.
And the reason they've had it forever is the coach, the manager,
Yeah,
we would
we call
say,
him.
they have a head coach who coaches the football. He doesn't really get involved in recruitment. He definitely doesn't get involved in the academy. And he doesn't liaise with the board or the owner. He just coaches the team. So really bluntly, they get given the players and they coach them.
Right.
Okay, we've not grown up with that at all. We've grown up whereby Howard or whoever is in control of the whole football club, right? He is one person who is God. Yeah, literally. Okay. And he has to do or have an opinion on everything. Okay. Now, maybe many, many, many years ago, when there wasn't academies, when there wasn't the media attention in terms of Sky and so on, maybe that was possible. My own view is those days in England are well over. Managing, I would imagine, forgive me, David, managing Everton now will look so different than his first time.
Yeah.
It would have looked different when, I don't know, if we go back to Dixie Dean's time. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe the board picked the team then. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there is a massive cultural difference. So the debate you refer to, we shouldn't be surprised. And by the way, this was part of my problem at Plymouth and getting the chop. The supporters definitely wouldn't understand what the role was.
No.
Because culturally, we just think the manager should be in charge of. So if you do a bit of research, many people now in the Premier League are called head coach.
Yeah.
Is David's title head coach? I suspect it will be.
It will be in this when they clarify it, I guess, in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So head coach means he's in charge of the team. Okay?
Yeah.
The director of football does everything else.
Yeah.
And that's really about planning the mid-term and the longer-term plan of the football
Club, yeah.
So the head coach is now today.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
The director of football is about tomorrow and next week.
Yeah. Did you find that at Plymouth then? Because I guess if you haven't got it, you're having to do that thing yourself and like you say, learning new skills, as in, I've got to liaise with an owner who wants one thing and a board member who wants another.
So really interesting. So for the first part of my journey at Plymouth Argyle, we're very successful.
Yeah.
So everything's okay, isn't it? Because whatever we're all doing is
working. Yeah.
And then, of course, it doesn't quite go the same. Although, I will say, to stay in the Championship last year with the budget that Plymouth Argyle had, and however we did it, whether that was Steven Schumacher at the start, and we got great momentum from the season before, he unfortunately decides to leave and go to Stoke. Ian Foster, and then myself, with help from other people, we managed to stay up. That's like an amazing achievement.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then, again, back to the point about supporters, all of us being a bit arrogant, the fans would have expected something more this year. We managed to recruit Wayne. All the expectations change. Okay, he's Wayne Rooney. We'll win the Champions League. Not even in the Champions League. Okay?
Yeah.
So then things don't go quite as well. And then the board members start to go, well, what's the role? Neil's mic'd up to the bench. He's on the grass doing this, that. I've always done that.
Yeah.
Shouldn't he be just recruiting the player? And so they don't know.
Yeah.
But because it's not going well, they start to ask questions. The owner, who is immersed in data analytics, that's how he's made his money, basically wants to go a data analytical route purely. So in other words, the data says sign this player, sign him.
Yeah.
I would not be of that philosophy. I would be, we'll use the data as a resource, and it's really important, but I also want to watch him. I also want to do some research about his character and personality. And I think most people who have my background as a coach and so on would probably say the same.
Yeah.
So there was a disconnect there.
Right, okay,
You
fair play.
obviously know the rest.
Yeah, I know the rest. Well, I mean, a couple of bits in it. Obviously, you took the team twice,
Yes.
you know, and that, again, I think I've got... The first time is, where are we, December 23, so I'm guessing
First game.
that's when... Is that when Stephen
left and went
leaves
to
for Stoke City? You'd have 4 games, you drew 3 and lost 1.
Yes.
It's not bad as a manager.
First game against Wayne, Birmingham City.
Birmingham, yeah.
3-3, yeah.
What a game.
Yeah.
And then, obviously... April 24 when Ian Foster goes, you have 6 matches, you win 3, draw 1 and lost 2 and stay up, which is a unbelievable achievement. So why is Neil Dewsnip not Plymouth Argyle's manager then? Was that ever a consideration? Would you have taken it?
No.
Okay.
I made it quite
Or head
clear.
coach, rather.
Head coach.
Yeah.
No, I made it quite clear that wasn't. So I had great support as well from a guy called Kevin Nanscoville, who's like Mr. Plymouth Argyle.
Right, yeah.
And he's immersed in the club.
Yeah.
And he and I worked really closely together. And we had that conversation. It was never on my agenda. I was always going to go back to being the director of football.
Okay.
And there is a little part of me thinks, I wonder.
Because you love coaching.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's the only reason I'm
Yeah.
asking is your record, not bad.
Yeah, thank you.
1 games.
Yeah.
You like coaching. So
Yeah.
and you've had a go of it. Like
Yeah.
not once but twice.
Yeah.
And you were successful.
Yeah, so why not?
Why didn't you give it a go?
Yeah, it's not the best answer, but it's an honest one.
Okay.
And that would be age.
Okay.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's like flipping hard work.
Yeah.
So I am in my early 60s, and I know there'll be people like Roy Hodgson, and I don't know how old David is, for example.
61.
Okay. The energy that it took
Yeah.
in those 10 games, I've got to tell you, is immense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't
And
switch
I
off.
think I honestly thought if I was doing this 10 years ago, yeah. But this is like really, really challenging.
Yeah.
And don't forget, I was also living the role of being the director of football as well.
Yeah.
So it was a double whammy, really. I loved every second. I am a coach. I'll always be a coach. I loved every game. I loved the challenges of preparing the team, the intensity of the battle of the game, and the relief afterwards
Yeah.
if you've won or drawn. And driving back home having lost, because I did lose 1 or 2, all the way, it's a long way.
Thinking of everything.
That's whether you're driving back to Gattaca or whether you're driving from Plymouth to Appleton. It's a long way.
Going back over everything.
That would be why.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen. I mean, big win over Leicester, who come up, obviously. A couple of managers you've had. I'll talk about again. We come back to Wayne Rooney again in a minute, don't we? But obviously, Ryan Lowe
Yeah,
done really well,
yeah,
didn't he? And then obviously moved on.
yeah,
And Steven Schumacher, who your old pupil,
yeah.
and
Both played one another last night.
Steven Schumacher, the apprentice beat the master, if you like. If you're talking about age or how long they've been doing
Well,
it.
one of the games that you spoke quite kindly about my record before. I do need to say, because Shuey will be screaming at this podcast now, saying
coming on it in a few weeks, but yeah, there you go.
I beat him. So Stoke City 3, Plymouth Argyle 0.
Yeah.
So let's get that out in the open so he can't use it against me.
No, that's
Because he will.
that's fair. I mean, Steven Schumacher has got the best record of any Plymouth Argyle manager in terms of win. He had a 52% win record. He beat a 118-year-old record that stood. So it's not bad, is it?
Very good.
And obviously he did really well. Promotions, like you said, and put Plymouth Argyle obviously into the Championship, and then to keep them in there, to keep them in there is a fantastic achievement.
Brilliant.
You get to the summer, and they've obviously done really well, the pair of those lads. And obviously, like you've just said, Ryan's now Wigan manager and Stephen's at Bolton. You get to the summer and Wayne Rooney, another one of your protégés, who is obviously still a very young coach. You know, he's managed the really difficult circumstances at Derby County, done a really good job when all odds were against them. Went out to DC, and that MLS is really weird and challenging the rules, and I thought he did okay there as well, and obviously wanted to come back. Personally, and I would say this to him when I see him again, the Birmingham job was the wrong one. I would have said it if he'd have ever asked, because John Eustace was doing a good job, and therefore, when the fans are back and they were sixth, it's a real difficult sell. And if it doesn't, you've got to hit the ground running, haven't you? And it didn't happen. But he comes to Plymouth. How, obviously you're part of the interview process, and you'll have had other applicants as well. What stood out about Wayne that you thought, yeah, he's the right way to go with this job?
So, first of all, we ran a really thorough process. So lots of people applied. Yeah. And Wayne's within that. Obviously, because we know one another, he picks the phone up and says, do you think I would have a chance? And we talked about that. But then I'm one person, so he's certainly not getting favourable treatment. Yeah. So the discussion around Wayne was his past record, which you've discussed. The owner, who lives and works out of the USA, they don't seem to have hang-ups around people who've not done well in certain roles. They just see it as an experience and move on to the next one. So he didn't really worry at all about what had gone before. I think he was excited about the fact that Wayne is who he is. And that would have a number of potential advantages to the football club. But why Wayne's particularly dead easy? He was the best interviewee on the day. Just that simple. He spoke really, really well about the social aspects, if you like. So the owner said to him, so when you were at Derby, you keep saying about you had good relationships. Who did you have good relationships with? And he said, well, like the groundsman and the girl who did the meals for us. The owner said, what's the names? And I don't know what the names are.
But he reeled them off.
And he reeled them off. And that knocked the owner for six. So it was like, this fella's for real. The football bit, his knowledge and his understanding of footy is what you would expect it to be. It's sensational. That was the easy bit. So the questions I was asking, he's knocking them out of the park.
Of course.
It was more the owner kind of getting his head around what he said.
Because it was obviously it's been interesting. I've spent time with Wayne. He is very, very articulate about football. People have the that he'll sometimes say in a interview, and sort of dismisses. His knowledge is unbelievable. His knowledge on players, the little stuff, intricacies. When you speak to him about players, Pete Shuttleworth, another who was Wayne's, or in part of Wayne's coaching staff, another really football man, steeped in football. It looked like not a bad fit, to be fair. Obviously, following on from Ryan Lowe, following on from Steven Schumacher, following on from Neil Dewsnip, it looked like it'd be a good fit. And he had struggled away a little bit early on, but home, some really good comebacks, some 3-0 down in one game, got it back to 3-3 and things like that. What do you think, looking at it, was the main issue? What would you say the main issue? Is it budget? Is it play? When you... Because you've employed them, the owner's excited, the fans rightly are excited. Wayne Rooney's the manager of Plymouth Argyle.
Yeah, they weren't sure at first.
The Birmingham...
But he won them, because of the Birmingham thing. But he won them over. So, context of Plymouth Argyle in the Championship would be budget-wise, and there's a massive correlation, whether it's the Premier League or the Championship or Division 2, if you like. Massive correlation between your playing budget and where you finish. So, over the last 5 years, Plymouth Argyle had outperformed their playing budget. For a number of reasons, whether that's clever recruitment, great coaching, whatever. The fans. Because the
fans are brilliant.
The Green Army are fantastic.
They are.
So, in the summer after appointing Wayne, we lost the goalkeeper, Michael Cooper, who's very talented. A massive loss. There was nothing Wayne could do about that. That was ongoing as he joined. So straight away, the team that you've now got is slightly weaker. Okay. But a goalkeeper,
quite important.
Imagine us losing Neville. In his prime. So that was really difficult to take. The other thing is, and I'm speaking now as the ex-director of football, to recruit players for Plymouth Argyle is difficult. One, it's about finance because we've not got as much as everybody else in the league. And two, geography.
The geography of it, yeah.
Players, or more to the point, players' wives or girlfriends don't want to live in Plymouth. They want to live in London.
Yeah.
Or if they can't live in London, they'll go live in Manchester.
Yeah.
Okay? And you can travel from Manchester to Liverpool, as we know, it's all that.
Yeah.
So Plymouth is a real outback in terms of football.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean to say they're not passionate about it or love it as much as everybody else. It just is geographically a challenge. So that meant that your chances of recruiting players who can keep you in the Championship again, plus get you
kick you on a bit, it's difficult.
Big ask. All that said, Wayne comes, he unites the club, the staff, the player, everyone's with him, and mid-October, the second international break of the season, we are 14th in the league. Everything's fine, and to be frank, we're looking that way. Not the
other way.
And then, I promise it's not an excuse, but the following happens, and we get 8 injured players who would be in our starting 11. 8. Now you go and take the 8 best Liverpool players out of their team. Please do that tonight. Go. Okay. And the team looks different. Well, ours look different. And unfortunately, because of the other reasons I've just said about finance and location, our fill-in players were found wanting. In a league that you're going to Ellen Road, that you got... I could keep going, couldn't I?
It's a hugely difficult league, isn't it?
Absolutely a disaster. And then Wayne has got to try and find ways as a head coach to keep the ship afloat, which is starting from a healthy position to do that. And once momentum is against you, it's really difficult. And with that, I remember us going to Norwich with a team that really, 1 or 2 lads were playing, but they shouldn't have been playing. We're playing 1 or 2 younger players and some make-up players. And we get beat 6. And probably could have been worse. And I'm not so sure with, if you like, my experience, I'm not so sure what Wayne's supposed to do. I haven't got a fancy answer. It was just the reality of where we were. And it cascaded. So, unfortunately, the owner and the board decide to change something. And I think it's simply in the hope that a change, or 2, by the way, can put a different slant on it. Now, they did beat Liverpool in the FA Cup. Well done. But the reality is they're pretty much still where they were. So they've changed a head coach and a few members of staff. They've recruited 1 or 2 different players, but nothing significant. And they changed the style of play. So one of the things that they talk about in Wayne's era was a continuation of the football that Ryan and Shuey had played, which was exciting. So there were last-minute comebacks. There were 3-alls. They liked that. They liked to be entertained. It worked. I'm not so sure that's going on right now. But they still may survive, in which case, good luck to them.
Oh, yeah, listen, it's football, isn't it? And people look for changes when you need to make them, don't you? If it's not happening, obviously, you've seen managers come and go in your time there as well, and you've seen it throughout football. You've seen it throughout football all the years you've been involved in it. Things always happen like that. Was that a shock when you've left? Did you see it coming? Did you feel like, well, you've sort of hinted at it before, I think you have to look at it?
I think because of social media, which is something which is also newish. That's incredibly powerful. Even though people say, well, don't read it. I remember Alan Irving saying to me, Neil, I never read the papers. Well, I'm sure he doesn't read social media.
No.
But unfortunately,
a lot of people
do. That turned poisonous against Wayne. Turned poisonous against me. So was I surprised? No, not really.
Okay. Fair enough. Just quickly before we move on, I forgot to mention this before, because this was quite important as well, that I'd seen 2021 part of Canada, the Canadian side at the Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah, amazing.
I mean, what?
So I'll tell you what happened.
Where's that come from?
So Phil Neville.
Yeah.
Okay, it's always got an Everton connection somewhere.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So Phil rings me and he said, Neil, would you help Bev Priestman? She's just got the head coach's job of Canada's women's team.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, I know, Phil, yeah, but she's in Canada. I'm not going to Canada. He said, no, you'll be in Japan. I said, what do you mean I'll be in Japan? He said, the Olympics. So I suddenly took a breath and went, wow, that's different.
Yeah.
Now, I'm employed by Plymouth Argyle. So I spoke to the CEO and said, look, just in case this crops up, what do you think? He said, wow, what an opportunity.
Yeah.
How long? I said, probably about 3 weeks. They won't win, so I'll be back for the first game.
Yeah.
So he gives it the okay. Spoke to Ryan.
Yeah.
He was the manager at the time.
Yeah.
He goes, can I come? Right? So although I know that the Olympic Games is a big thing, other people who I'm talking to are going, wow, the Olympics.
Yeah.
So we don't really think about the Olympics in terms of footy, do we?
No.
Because it's not a main event.
Yeah.
It's like the 100 metres and whatever else. So I'm thinking, well, I've never been to Japan. That'll be nice.
Yeah.
I knew Bev because she was Phil's assistant for the England team.
Right.
So I knew her a little bit, not loads. And I thought, go on, I'll give her a go. So I did a camp with the team. And this will make you laugh. I have no concept of the standard or who the players are. And I go on the first camp to, I think it was in Spain, and I get introduced to everybody. And I get introduced to this lady called Christine Sinclair, right? Do you know who Christine Sinclair is?
No.
Amazing. And neither did I. Okay, if I was to say to you, she scored more goals in international football than anybody else in world football. Okay. Amazing, eh?
Yeah.
So she scored more goals, or had, than Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Just happens to have done it in the female game.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of learning all this. And what I also realise is the Canadians are not necessarily the number one team in the world, but they're not bad. They're like 5 or 6.
Right.
Now, the Olympics doesn't have all the best teams in the world because of the way you have to qualify.
Yeah.
So they've actually, in the previous 2 Olympic Games, got the bronze medal. So because psychology, particularly in North America, is way ahead of how we use it over here, they've got this big mantra from third to first.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And they are bought in like you wouldn't believe. They are going to win the gold medal.
Okay.
And I'm just, don't be stupid. You're not going to beat Great Britain. You're not going to beat the Dutch or the Spanish. Yeah. Okay, but they're like really bought in. So I kind of jump on board.
Yeah.
They make me sing. I make them sing. And we get on great. Beatles songs everywhere. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And we kind of go from there. So then we get to Japan, and I'm kind of the assistant coach. Yeah. So I'm helping Bev. They're quite well organised. What they were incredibly resilient. Right. They are the toughest mental team I've ever been around. Really, bar none. Absolutely. So I've often been asked, who's the best team you've ever worked with? These are, in that way, maybe not the most talented, but in terms of their mental toughness, absolutely off the scale. So they play the first game against Japan. We play in the stadium. It's COVID. There's no one there. Yeah. Indoor stadium. So we're playing the host first game. We draw 1-1. Okay, all right. So now I think we played Chile next and fluke a 2-1 win. Right. So then we go into the third game to play Team GB. Surreal. So you've got Bev, who's English, me, who's English, the goalkeeping coach, English, and the assistant coach, English. All stood behind the masks
Yeah.
in COVID, singing "God Save the Queen" as it would have been at the time, when it's their go, not the Canadians' go, which was quite fun. So the game is kind of 1-1, and I remember Lucy Bronze,
good player,
coming to get hold of the ball from me with about 5 minutes to go, and it's 1-1, and I know that we've both qualified.
Right.
So I say to her, "Lucy, slow down." She looks at me as though to say, "What are you doing here?" Because she would have bumped into me at St. George's. What? Right. So anyway, we play out the last 2 or 3 minutes. We draw 1-1. They're going to top the group, which disappointed the Canadians. I'm made up because I know that we're then going to go to a different part of Japan on the bullet train. And that's all
You're excited about it.
I'm on a bullet train, going to some far points of Japan to play Brazil. Okay.
Yeah.
We beat Brazil on penalties. Now we have to go to play the USA. Canada have beaten the USA like once in 25 years. Okay. We get a penalty that might not have been a penalty, which they score, and then defend like you wouldn't believe.
You've never seen.
Right? Absolutely to the letter of whatever's been explained, they do it and they win. I say they win, we win.
We win.
I've never been to Canada, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're now in the final of the Olympic Games to play Sweden, who are one of the best teams in the world at the time.
Yeah.
So we play, surreal. I think the kickoff's like 1:00 in the morning in Yokohama, and we play this final. And of course, I think, did they score first? So it finishes 1-1, and it goes to penalties. And Canada win on penalties. So I've got a gold medal. So back to where we talked before, I definitely will be the only male in the country with an Olympic football gold medal, a World Cup winners medal, a European winners medal, and a Toulon tournament winners medal. How good is that?
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Which I'm really proud of, as you can tell.
Yeah.
But how lucky.
That's unbelievable. Gold medal at the Olympics. Incredible. Incredible when you're saying that.
So on the same theme,
Yeah.
I've been asked by, maybe it's a trend, maybe this is my future. So Gemma Granger, who's English, is the head coach of Norway.
Right.
They're going to the Euros this summer.
Yeah.
And she's asked if I will go to support her to do the same. So we might need to do another podcast.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not so sure that's going to be a winner's medal.
Who knows? But you didn't think Canada was going to be?
We'll see.
So,
We'll see.
we'll definitely do one after you've been there. Fantastic. Just a couple of little ones before we finish. It can be little or as long as you want it to be, really. But recruitment in football, just in general, what you've experienced. Obviously, you've been as a sporting director. You've seen it. It sort of goes in with data as well. You sort of answered it a little bit before with... We've seen, obviously, at Premier League level, Brentford have done it with, Matty Benham and his formula. Tony Bloom's got his own data stuff that Brighton usually has, or he rents to Brighton, whatever. For you, is that sort of moneyball aspect of it's just all data, therefore that I'm just buying him regardless? You said it before, but do you think it can work like that, or do you think still the best way to do it is to combine the both, the eye test with obviously the data, because you will have been involved in bringing players in and how certain recruitment works. How do you think it's best overall?
The lads at Liverpool have just released a book, haven't they? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is.
Forgive me. Sorry.
Yeah.
I have read it.
Yeah.
And
Was it Michael? It wasn't Michael Edwards, was it? It was because he was the data man. He's just come back, hasn't
what's
he? But
quite
anyway,
clear from their experience is that it's both.
Right, yeah.
And I would support that.
Yeah.
So do I think that data is useful? Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% useful.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think it's dangerous if that's the only factor being used to identify talent.
Right, yeah.
And that's all it does. It doesn't recruit it.
Yeah.
It identifies it.
Yeah.
The recruitment is still done by people on the end of a phone speaking to agents, speaking to other football clubs.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I think it's important to distinguish between the two. So you can identify the talent.
Yeah.
Can you recruit it? In terms of the talent identification, yeah, I think data's a great tool, but I also think you need, and don't forget, David Weir plays this role at Brighton. He's still the go-to football person who has an opinion. I mean, I'm certain of that. You have to ask him yourself.
Yeah.
But that's the way I would think it is best used.
Because it is, there's just so much discussion about it, isn't there? How it's done, and I think how people, it's how it's reported as well. I think, like we were saying before about the role of the sporting director, it's sometimes reported in a way people have got it muddled up. It therefore puts pressure on fans. You know, it's his fault that we haven't bought this. He hasn't found this player or whatever. When there is so many facets to actually recruit.
Lots of directors of football, sporting directors, technical directors. Yeah, they have a different skill set, perhaps, than me. Yeah. So they will have come from a recruitment point of view.
Background, anyway. Yeah.
And I think that's what the fans particularly see. Yeah. It's his job to recruit the players. Nothing's that simple, really. Yeah. So we would have at Plymouth Argyle a committee, if you like. Which, you know, Liverpool have kind of championed as well, haven't they? Whereby it's a small group of people getting all this data, discussing it, and then deciding who to try and recruit. For us, the head coach was always involved in that. He wasn't involved in the tickle-tackle at the start, but we would put 2 or 3 names. So if you need a left back, here's the 2 or 3 that we think are worth considering. Yeah. What do you think?
Right, okay, yeah.
I'm sure that's how it works.
I know, I heard that. I don't know whether it's come out of that book, because sometimes it gets reported, doesn't it? But, like, say Jurgen Klopp, for instance, had first and last sort of decision. So first decision, what do we need? Yes. And last decision, we'll have him then, out of 3. And do you think that's a fair way to do it? So you've got Neil, you know, I'm a manager, I need a winger, and you go, right, we'll go and identify.
So it's a never-ending feast. Yeah. So there has to be continual dialogue between the director of football and the head coach. Yeah. Every day.
Right. Okay.
So back to me in my time at Plymouth Argyle. Yeah. Those discussions were obviously easy. Ryan, Shuey, Ian Foster, Wayne. Mm-hmm. It was almost a discussion amongst friends. Right. We all knew what we were trying to achieve, and we were all working towards the same aim. Early on, less so, I guess, towards the end. But we were all involved in every decision. But, like, I didn't take every coaching session on the field. The lads weren't involved in every recruitment discussion until they needed to be. Yeah. So we played our own roles.
Yeah. Okay, 2 to go. 2 to go. Pick me your 5-a-side team of players who you've brought through.
Do I have to have a goalie?
You'll have to, won't you? All right, no. I'll let you off with no goal. Goalie in and out. Unless you can tell me a goalie.
Aaron Ramsdale would be probably the best.
Okay.
Michael Cooper, now at Sheffield United. And then I'm going to go back to that group of players. Wayne, you better count. I'll end up with about 25 here.
Wayne Rooney.
Wayne, Steven Gerrard. Yeah. Joe Cole. Francis Jeffers.
You can have one sub.
Ross ain't gonna like being sub, is he? That's
you can have them 4. You can have them 4. And Aaron Ramsdale.
I could go so many more.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm gonna.
So we're going.
My phone's gonna ring.
Ramsdale, Gerrard, Rooney.
No, Joe Cole. Michael Cooper ahead of Ramsdale.
Okay, Michael Cooper, Steven Gerrard, Wayne Rooney.
Joe Cole.
Franny. Sorry, Ross, you sub.
Well,
roll on, roll off, Ross. It's fine.
It might not be Ross. So it could be. Rodwell was pretty good, you know, as a youngster. Yeah. He would definitely fit the category of maybe he could have achieved a bit more.
Yeah.
But another England international.
He was an England international. Okay, final one, a nice easy one for you. Although you just told me what might be happening. What's next then for Neil Dewsnip? You've had a little break. You've said you've had a couple of, or you've had a holiday. Gonna have another little break.
Booked another one. So we're going somewhere
good.
else.
That's good.
I'm enjoying just taking a breath, because now I actually look back. Again, I referred to Steve Highway before, didn't I? I heard him talk about burnout for coaches. And when you're young and you're running around like a blue arse, you don't really understand that. I think I do now. I think the chance that has been given me to just take a breath, to reflect, has been really good. It won't last, because I'll be absolutely useless at doing nothing. And I'm not ready to do the garden or fish or play golf even. I really enjoy helping people. That's never changed. That would be kind of, if it was a stick of rock, that would be through the middle of me, I think.
Right.
So going forwards, helping head coaches might be a way forward. There's a lot of different ways I could do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of sounds nice. I always remember Jimmy Lumsden at Everton, a lovely, lovely man. And he was everyone's common sense.
Yeah.
And I think part of me looked at him all those years ago and thought, I'd love to be like you one day. So maybe something
that's
like
what
that.
It is. Just thinking, and this is the last bit, just thinking then of what you said, giving you time off there, is there anything you've looked at personally? Maybe it's your time at Plymouth towards the end where you've thought, I probably wouldn't do that again now I've had a little break. Because you were saying before we even started, left school, you've worked forever. This is like your first bit of time off, and certainly with football, the demands of it and everything is on you all the time. Your brain probably never switch. Probably takes you 4 or 5 days when you go on holiday to switch off from what you're doing, if you do at all. But have you had any time for that sort of self-reflection where you've gone, just thinking back? We all have them moments, don't we, where you might be driving in the car where you go,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't do that again if that popped up. Have you had any of them moments, or are you just sort of thinking, no, I've probably done everything?
I am incredibly lucky.
Okay.
For someone who starts out as a PE teacher at New Hayes round the corner and loved every second of my PE teaching days.
Yeah.
Working again at another great school at Cardinal Heenan, getting the opportunity to work at Everton for all those years, working with incredibly talented players, to be asked to be a national coach of your country, to win a few medals, and then to almost live a different journey with lads who were once 8, 9 years of age, to be around them and support them on their journey. I just feel incredibly fortunate, really. But I'd like to do some more. I'm not quite finished.
No, it doesn't. It sounds like you've still got loads to offer, Neil. So, listen, thank you very much for giving up your time today. It's been I've loved it.
Likewise.
I could have had more. There could have been so much more, and maybe we do something else after you've gone and won another medal in the summer. That'd be lovely. That'd be lovely.
Brilliant.
Neil,
thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil.
Very good.
Cheers, mate.
That was great.
I appreciate it.
Well played on your research, by the way. Well done.